So let's get going. I know a lot of people will be trickling in. We're already a couple minutes late. This will be a quick one. So if you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A tab. I'll try to answer as many as I can. We'll go over the concept of relative strength days and how they're beneficial. What I have up on the screen is our Memorial Day sale or promo for Deepvue. So there's two things we're doing. The monthly 2 months for $39 is a trial that gets you in. You get to test the platform, see if you like it, right? And then continue on with a monthly plan, or you could go annual, which will give you 3 months for free when you compare it to the monthly price. My recommendation, again, would be you go annual over the next year. I'm confident that we will be the leading platform that's out there. I'm very, very confident when I say that. And it will, the annual price will likely not be what it is today. I think it's $441 if you go to the annual checkout today, and $49 a month if you get on the monthly. When we do increase prices, which will be eventual as we grow as a platform, we get to a certain threshold of our monthlies and annuals, we do plan on increasing the price. But if you get this through the promo, you lock in kind of lifetime $49 and the renewal at $490 for the annual forever, basically. So it's a good time to get involved. We have a lot of things coming through the pipeline. We're showcasing a lot more of the platform. Our processes are getting a lot better in terms of reliability of the platform, scalability, performance, etc. And that's why I say I'm pretty confident over the next couple of months here. You guys will notice huge strides in terms of that. But also in a year from now, I'm sure we could surpass many of the platforms, if not all of them out there. So that's enough of a promo. Let's get back to the topic for today. The topic for today is relative strength days. As I talk through this, let me know if you guys have, volume is a little bit low. Second. Let me know now. Volume should be fine now. Should be coming through really good. I just increased it a little bit on my side. If you guys have any questions on relative strength as a whole or relative strength days as I talk through this, feel free to put them in the Q&A and I'll answer those, or any questions for Deepvue in general. So one of the first things is, what is relative strength days? What do they mean? What's the concept? Why is it important? I came up with the concept of this because I have an engineering head and my background is in electrical and computer software engineering. So I think of things very numerically when it comes to the market. And that's where the thought process began. I wanted to quantify, relative strength for market leaders. From one correction to the next, everybody, my mentors, Ross, Mike Webster, and all these folks that taught me relative strength would always say that, hey, stocks that are exhibiting relative strength, that are acting well while the market is correcting, tend to double and triple thereafter, right? So now, what's a way to quantify that? There's a couple of ways. One is, Ross's relative strength new high before price screen that we have in the screener presets. Another one that we have is the relative strength new high, right? But those are more screeners or filters that put a blanket on things, and then you got to figure out which one's better than the other, etc. Relative strength days, what it does is it takes it to the next step, right? I feel is the next level of how you could quantify and look at relative strength in the markets and find a common thread among leaders, right? So when folks study the market, they come up with a methodology. They always tend to quantify, hey, cup and handles are successful X amount of the time, or it was the first base ever built in the markets, etc. Flat bases have this type of success rate. IPO bases have this type of success rate. And that was kind of my thought process when I was thinking of relative strength days, right? Relative strength days is measuring the number, the percentage or the number of days a stock is outperforming the S&P or the Nasdaq 100 And this becomes really useful when the market is in a correction or pullback mode, right? So at the gist of it, if we were to go to some stock like NTNX, which has been up, right? The stock has been up. We're talking about going from 30s to 70s, right? And how does a stock like this move without, how can you get it on your radar so that you have some chance of being involved in this run? We're not pitching, I'm not pitching the fact that you need to, I have an indicator that you could buy here and then you can sell right there. What I'm saying is, how can we capture most of this trend on this name? So if you look at just the relative strength, indicator up here, and you add the relative strength line, and we were to, and I'm going to change this to candlesticks. Let me just quickly change this to candlesticks right here. So this is just another way of viewing relative strength, right? It's just it's a price chart. It's a high, low, open, high, low, close. And you could see that the stock, when it exhibits, when it outperforms the S&P or the Qs, it's going to have an up day. When it doesn't outperform the S&P or Qs, it's going to have a down day. So in September of 2023, when we had that correction in the QQQ, let me actually add the Qs as a line on the chart so that we could see it. And then we can move it to, sorry, my camera's in the way, existing pane above, right? So now we see this line that I've drawn, that's right here. Let's refresh this so we get more data. NTNX, there we go. So this is really going to be good to visualize. Well, I'll figure out why we're not getting full data here, but still good enough. So the Qs or the SPY was pulling back, right? If we were to take this point in reference, August 30th, the market is pulling back. This is the orange line that you see on your charts. As the market's pulling back, the relative strength with which I've changed to these candlesticks are moving to the upside. Now, this is a visual way, right? Relative strength, new high before price is what these pink dots are. That's a visual way of the market saying, it's exhibiting strength versus the market pullback. It's exhibiting strength versus the market pullback. And when the market starts to rally up the right side, which is this orange line for the S&P 500, right? When it starts to rally up, how do you quantify this relative strength? And that's essentially what relative strength days are, right? And why it's important to keep track of them, especially in market correction. So a few ways to track relative strength days right now that exist in the platform. If you type in relative strength days, you could screen for them in the platform. So we have two different ways you could do that now. Through the relative strength day count. So you could say, hey, 3 out of 5 days the stock exhibited relative strength. Show me all of those, right? So if I were to do that and say 3 out of 5 days, show me the stocks that have exhibited relative strength versus the S&P. Now we have 4,268 of those stocks. Or you could do it the other way, which is a percentage. So over the last 20 days, right, just show me stocks that have exhibited relative strength 50% of the time. So if I do that, now that screen gives me 44.13. The percent portion of it we added recently into the platform. That was yesterday. And now you could have it, do it on a percentage basis, or you could do it on a count basis as well, whichever you prefer. Now, how is this useful? Based on the study that I did for relative strength days, basically, I found that on a net basis, when you study corrections in the markets and you're going back in time and you go through each correction to see which stocks doubled and tripled, they had a common thread. And that common thread was, in a correction, if a stock exhibits relative strength 62.5% was just the average number that came about. If it exhibits relative strength 62% of the time or more, right, in a correction, those stocks tend to double and triple or have the potential. There's no guarantees in the market, but have the potential to outperform any other stock in the markets. So that's that was one of the things that came out of the studies. I would, really encourage you guys to go back into some of these corrections that we've had recently, identify stocks that have performed well, see which ones exhibited those relative strength and how they acted thereafter, right? That would be the best way for you to have conviction in what I'm saying instead of just listening to me saying it and taking my word for it. So you could scan for relative strength days. You just search for relative strength days, and when you click new screen, you could create it for yourself. We'll go over a screener preset that I've created as well. So if you click my screens drop down, you go to screener presets, you go to top traders, and under top traders, you'll have my name and 62.5% RS days. If I were to run this particular screen, click edit filters. Let's just take a look at how this is constructed. So the first thing that we have in this particular stock is the fact that, I'm looking for equities. I'm looking for the 20-day average volume to be above 5 million. So I'm looking for some liquidity in the markets. I don't want thin stocks showing up. And then group 2, which I will update after this webinar, but this is essentially the same thing, is that on a 5-day, 10-day, 15, 20, 30, or 60-day basis, if any of these stocks have exhibited relative strength 62% of the time or more versus the S&P 500, I want these stocks on my screen. And that's why I call it the 62.5% RS days. Again, the 62% is based on a study, right? You guys can do a study on your own. If it's a different net of stocks that you study, maybe you're not studying growth stocks, you're studying a hybrid of, big momentum names, etc. You may come up with a different number, but we have the flexibility in the platform for you to choose any number now as well. So if we were to take a look at this screen, and we'll see some names on here that as the market pulled back, these are the names that have exhibited that characteristic, and these are the names that will show up on the screen as well. So it's on a 60-day basis. So this screen is for all time frames, right? So if I were to reduce this down to the last 5 days, I'll get the results for the last 5 days only. What I've done is this is kind of like a bigger basket or a bigger net to get everything that qualifies from a 5-day span all the way to the 2-month span in the markets. So the other thing is we've added columns now. So you can see that, on a 30-day basis, Apple has exhibited relative strength versus the S&P 53% of the time, right? On a 20-day basis, it's outperformed the S&P 65% of the time. So that's why it's made it to this particular screen. So as you go through this, now you're able to quantify relative strength. And in corrections or pullbacks, when we have these in the market, especially when you have this type of pullback that we just had, and then the rally up the right side, this orange line, right? We had a pullback in the S&P. Now we're back into all-time highs. This screen was really, really useful in that in that time span, because it caught any and all relative strength in the markets. And it's really the only scan that you would need to run, versus our database as well. So I hope that makes sense in terms of how to use relative strength, right? Days, what they mean, especially during pullbacks and market corrections. You could screen for them in Deepvue when you click new screens and you search up relative strength days, or you could use the preset screen that exists, the 62.5% RS days. You could always duplicate this one and make it your own and change all the criteria as to what you feel is best. And you can add these as columns in the platform as well. So there are many different ways to do that. You could add it in your data panel as well. So you can always have this as a data point in your data panel. And we will also have some color coding, which will be live tomorrow. So if anytime the relative strength goes above 62.5% on any of these time frames, they will light up blue, both on these data points here and in the data panel, which is, again, just a visual indication that this stock is outperforming. And historically, stocks that exhibit relative strength 62 or more percent of the time tend to act way, way better versus other, potential stocks that might run up in the markets. So I will take a look at what is this going to represent. Can you explain again? Thanks. So it represents that the stock has exhibited relative strength 62 or more % of the time versus the S&P 500. That's essentially what it screens for. Yeah, so really interesting point. I think the key piece to the entire plan would be to be able to anchor specific dates to start and end. Daniel, that's a really good suggestion. That's kind of the next step. We will do an indicator as well. We will do an indicator for relative strength days as well. So you could add those. It will kind of be a staircase system, like a step line, and relative strength days from correction. So we will, have some data point called correction. When it's true, it will, screen for that time span. All of those things are being worked on. Is there a reason you don't include RMB less than this in your RS screen? So this particular screen that I have is just based on the fact, this statistical number alone. The idea of this screen is not to mash up 5 different screens together. I do use RMB a lot and in my other screens, or I could take ideas from this screen, and combine it with my other screens using the OR logic that we have in the platform. But what I'm showcasing here or the purpose of today's tutorial or webinar is to showcase, why relative strength days are important, what's the statistical significance of them, how to use them, how to visualize them, and how to screen for them in the platform. So the significance is based on a study that I did. Again, there's a question, why only 62.5%? That's kind of the common average amount of time that winners in the market, when you do a study of corrections going back in time, that's the number that I found on average was kind of your minimum threshold if you want to be if you want to be playing in a group of stocks that have the potential to run up on average of on average 80% or more in the markets when the markets come out of the correction or go up the right side. So that's the statistical significance based on the study that I did for myself in my trading. I also noticed industry ranks are we're aware of that. That's being fixed. Will be fixed tomorrow morning. We're already aware that it's being worked on as well. Any other questions that you guys see? Can DV share some of these column settings you guys have so we don't have to create new column sets? Sharing is coming across the board. You'll be able to share your dashboards. You'll be able to share your screens, your column sets, data panels, etc. So sharing as a whole is going to be worked on likely in August. It will be a big focus where you will just create a link, give it to another trader, and then when they click that link, that data will be imported into their profile. So that's something that we're working on as well. So that's coming. I think that's going to unlock a lot of capabilities, a lot of, it's going to open things up for the community, for you guys to kind of communicate with each other. Not many questions today. So there we go. Are you familiar with fair value gaps? Is that something that Deepvue? I did see your request come through. I know that this was one of the things that was Sylvia you put in through support. One of my team members was talking about it as well. We're looking at it, and we'll try to get it in as soon as we can. Is there any particular period to look for relative strength? I would say if the market is pulling back, so let's do some tactical hypotheticals here. So if let's say the market has pulled back, this is the S&P, the orange line. So this is the S&P, and we're pulling back in the markets, right? Now, let's say we've been pulling back for about 2 weeks, right? If you're pulling back for about 2 weeks, you could use the RS 15 days and just say that over the last 15 days, what's exhibited relative strength 60% or more of the time, right? You could create a screen for that right away. So as if the pullback steepens to 3 weeks, you just use a different time frame. If we go back to 2022 and it steepens to 60-day down cycle like we had in 2022, then you could do the same as well. You could go RS day 60, show me stocks that have outperformed the S&P for 60 days, or for 60% of the time as well. So that's why we have the different relative strength days and the different time frames. We have a 5-day span, a 10-day, 15, 20, 30, and 60. We could add 90, 120. But most of the time, when you're looking for relative strength, it's a bullish strategy. And most of the time you won't get deep corrections for 60 or more days, but we will add 90 as well to this. How does RMB compare with the squeeze? I'm assuming you're talking about the TTM squeeze. They're very different. RMB is dependent on price volatility and the volatility of the stock to itself, and it takes into account, average ranges and all of that into one equation. The TTM squeeze, where I'm not too familiar with it, but what we've done with the RMB is it's to look for price contraction to scan for VCPs in the market, and that's what RMB is. It might be similar, it might be different, but I'm just giving you what RMB is versus the TTM squeeze. Can we edit the number of days apart from standard days given here? Not yet. We will enable that capability over the summer, where you could pick 16 days instead of 15, or you could pick 61 days instead of 60. That will happen with our formula builder. That will happen in over the summer. We're pretty close there. How do your volume bars get color coded? My volume bars get color coded. I just add the DV enhanced volume, and my settings are up is blue, down is red, pocket pivots are green, and reverse pocket pivots are orange. So that's the color scheme, where volume dry up for me shows up as orange, below average volume or reverse pocket pivot volume, and then big up days that are pocket pivots show up as green. The regular days show up as blue, and then the down days show up as red. How do you get the SPY line? Let me do that again. So all you do is you click this, compare. And I know our menu is not the best. It's being worked on. This is a mess. You click compare, you type in SPY, and what I did was add it. You can add it as a new pane. Once you add it as a new pane, it could show up at the bottom here. Or if you want to bring it up, you just click, you hover over this. Whoops. You hover over the SPY, go to these three dots, click move to existing pane above, and then you just move it all the way up. So you could put it behind price like this, or you can move it up one more to put it behind relative strength. So that's how you do that. This is being recorded. Yes, I did go fast. I tend to talk fast when I don't have anybody else with me to slow me down. Nick is away today, but yes, this is recorded. The recording will be sent out, I assume, as quickly as tomorrow afternoon. Relative strength setting, able to measure lenses. Yeah. So all of that is answered. If there are no other questions, we can end it there. It will be a quick one, quick 26 minutes. Just to remind folks that we do have a Memorial Day sale going on. I will end it there. Do check it out. We'll probably put it in the comments of the video if you're watching on YouTube. We do have a promo for 2 months for $39 as a trial, and then $441 if you go annual. You get 3 months free. I suggest you go with the annual. The platform's about to get really good in terms of visualization of data, heat maps, scatter plots, industry sector, apps that will come to the dashboard, and all of that stuff. So I wish you guys a good evening. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to help at the bottom left here of the platform, or email hello@deepvue.com. We have a really good support team that works around the clock to get your questions answered that way as well. So with that, I wish you guys a good evening, and I will see you in the next one.